It gladdens my heart to see you once more, friend. Do not presume that because I am a priestess, my fury has been checked.
What's up, people of the internet? It is your favorite theory crafter, Skizzors here, doing another Nexus by the Numbers presented by StormLegacy.com. Today we're going to be going over Tyrande, a support that was just recently changed with this last Diva patch. So to kick things off, we're going to be going over her basic abilities, but right before I start that, guys, just once again, thank you for all the support that you guys have been giving me and Storm Legacy. It does mean a ton, and be sure to check out StormLegacy.com and Storm Legacy on Twitter at Storm Legacy Team, and also on Twitch at Storm Legacy. Be sure to check those guys out. They're wonderful. Their little logos right up here. And yeah, so this guide will be featured on the Storm Legacy page, and they will always be featured on Storm Legacy's page from here on out. I will still be uploading these guides to my channel. Let's get right into this then. Tyrande is a support hero. Recently changed with this most recent patch, the Diva patch. She's best in a dual support lineup, but you can solo heal with her if they are sustained damage base. And in the event that you would be solo supporting with Tyrande, it is a very niche situation where the enemy team would probably have one assassin that is slow sustained, somebody like a Vala or a Raynor, just one single assassin that you can protect a single target individual from death. But she is very, very strong in a dual support lineup, as her heals are very, very good in a single target scenario. Her heals get stronger the later the game goes, as she is a late game healer, and she's capable of a lot of good saves. So we're going to be going over what I think is generally a very good build for her. She has a lot of versatility in her talents, so you can really pick and choose just about any combination. I'll be going over what I have had the most success with. I've played a lot of games on her recently, try to give you guys the best optimal guide based on the experiences I've had, and I've been queuing solo queue, duos, trios, and I did 2 games with 5 stacks, but mostly it's been solo queue and 3 stacking. So Tyrande's first basic ability is Light of Loon. Costs 30 mana, cooldown is 12 seconds. Heal target ally for X health. Basic attacks reduce the cooldown of this ability by 2 seconds. Now, that second sentence makes Tyrande an insanely good clutch healer. What I mean by clutch healer is during a fight, if you're auto-attacking, stutter stepping, things of that nature, your heal's going to come off cooldown a lot faster, and you're going to be able to continually put out pretty decent heals on a target. And putting those decent heals out on a target, you can help somebody survive, or just get them in the fight just enough health to, you know, finish off an entire enemy team or something of that nature. So over to the right side, I'm going to be showing an example of attacking a minion, zoning with your E and just your presence, and also with the minion attacks resetting your heal in order to heal the hero on your team that needed to get out in the first place. So in this scenario that you're watching, this is a situation where you're not entirely in danger on Tyrande. Provide support in just the fact that since your hero's there, the enemy team's going to have a lot harder time pushing in, and they might end up dying for it. So you really want to make sure that your positioning is good on Tyrande, and you know what can happen in every situation. The next clip you're going to be seeing is me auto-attacking the enemy Leoric, who is life draining me, so I can proc Light of Balloons, cooldown reduction to constantly be healing myself. And I'm able to survive because of that. So next basic ability is Sentinel. Mana cost is 70, cooldown 18 seconds. Send an owl that travels across the battlefield revealing its path, deals X damage to the first enemy hero hit, and reveals them for 5 seconds. Repeatable quest comes baseline on Sentinel now. One of the big changes with it. Every 8 heroes hit by Sentinel decreases its mana cost by 10 and causes it to pierce an additional target. Now this can stack up to 80 times, where it becomes free completely, and you can pierce 10 heroes. Although I don't know a situation where you're going to be piercing 10 heroes. That is the cap that Tri Mode lets you go to. Just thought I'd let you guys know that little tidbit of information there. The next basic ability is Lunar Flare. Mana cost is 60, cooldown 12 seconds. After 0.75 seconds, deal X damage and stun enemies in the target area for 0.75 seconds. This is more or less your bread and butter skill, and it is extremely powerful if used in the right way. To the right, I'm going to be showing some more clips of just different scenarios where I might stun an enemy to get a kill or secure it for my team, or whatever the case may be. It's a great AoE stun. Your trait is Hunter's Mark, cooldown 20 seconds, reveal a target enemy and lower their armor by 25 for 4 seconds, increasing all damage taken by 25%, cannot be used on structures. So the range on this is pretty low. It is around your auto attack range, so usually you kind of just walk in, you drop Hunter's Mark on an enemy, and then you try to stun them for a follow-up, and usually your team can focus a Hunter's Mark target and really burst them down within that 4-second time period. With toggle cooldowns turned on, I'm just going to kind of be showing each individual ability. So we'll just start with Light of Valoon, your heal. It's just point and click, target heal. Real easy. Nothing too special about that. W, Sentinel, is this gigantic line that goes on forever, and it shoots out an owl. And I just hit Arthas with that owl. It's hanging out over there. The owl will just continue to travel indefinitely, revealing a line wherever it goes, and this can be used for scouting purposes, or it can be used to snipe an enemy. Arthas was really low over here. I could throw an owl and hit him, and I might get a kill just doing something like that if an enemy escaped from the fight, etc. Lunar Flare, being an AoE, is point and click. Pretty simple. Just make sure you're accounting for the delay, for the stun, and the enemy team will see the markings on the ground. As you saw in the clips for Lunar Flare, I tried my best in every single scenario to be able to kind of chart out in my head where I think the enemy was going to move to, and then I would drop my stun accordingly. Most of the time, enemy players, when under attack, will default to running either in a straight line or directly towards the safest point, just making a line where if you have point A here and this is point B, the fastest way to get there is a line. It's not to go around, it's not to dodge like that, it's just to go in a line. So most players will just start walking this way, and if somebody's walking along and they're just kind of chilling, you can basically figure out where they're going to end up being in order to hit the stun. So if Chaos is right here and he's running away from me, he's going this direction, and this is where I think he's going to end up. Remember, he's here. I think he's going to end up here. I would shoot this in front of him, even though he's here currently. I'd aim further ahead, so he would walk into it and get hit by the stun, allowing your team to catch up and then finish off the kill. The Hunter's Mark, pretty self-explanatory, just point and click like everything else. They become vulnerable, as you can see by this purple shield, and it just allows you to be dealing more damage entirely. Because it is armor in general, it does increase your spell damage as well. So I usually wouldn't say something like this, because it's a little bit embarrassing, but I just did most of the talent tree without hitting the record button. So feels bad, but I'm gonna go over everything that I just went over again. So I just thought you guys might want to know that. It's a little funny deal. With the talents, we're gonna be going over Ranger, Lunar Blaze, and Ranger's Mark. Now, all three quests are definitely viable to pick. I've had the least amount of success as far as impact from a talent with Ranger's Mark. With that said, we're going to get right into it. So Ranger is Sentinel, deals damage based on distance traveled up to 75%. It has a repeatable quest. Hitting enemy heroes with Sentinel increases the maximum damage bonus by 3%. This is your sniper talent. Throw an owl across the map, you headshot somebody, they go down. That's what Ranger's all about. Now next I'm going to be going over Lunar Blaze, and then I will be comparing Ranger and Lunar Blaze. Because once again, Ranger's Mark I didn't really find to be that useful. I will read through it so you guys know what it is, but I'm going to mainly be comparing Ranger and Lunar Blaze. So with Lunar Blaze, it comes with a repeatable quest, and that is hitting heroes with Lunar Flare increases its damage by 3%. The first reward is after hitting 10 heroes, Lunar Flare no longer has a mana cost, and the second reward is after hitting 20 heroes, increase the range of Lunar Flare by 40%, which is a pretty big deal. It's a pretty large increase of range that you get from that, and the mana cost is just nice to keep you in the fight a little longer. Ranger's Mark is basic attacks reduce the cooldown of Hunter's Mark by 1 second, has a repeatable quest. Every 60 basic attacks against enemy heroes increase the duration of Hunter's Mark by 1 second. The repeatable quest is pretty negligible. I think I've gotten 2 seconds from it on the the games that I did test with this, and the basic attacks reduction on Hunter's Mark is nice, but like I said, I just have had a lot more impact with Lunar Blaze and Ranger. So Ranger is just a straight up damage talent. That's what it does. It gives you more damage, and that's really it. Lunar Blaze gives you a little bit more utility, and it also provides you with some more damage. So in all the testing that I've done in various games and then within try mode, like I usually do, this from where I'm at over here, from right there to right over here to where this training dummy is, that distance is equal damage increase from Ranger and Lunar Blaze, respectively. So this is also including the distance traveled. So with Ranger, from where I am on the minimap here to right here, once again, it's pretty decently far. It's not an ordinary snipe that you're going to be getting, or it's not an ordinary owl hit in a team fight. This is kind of an afterward snipe. So that distance, Ranger with the distance traveled increase, and Lunar Blaze do the same damage, roughly. Ranger is an increase of, I think, around 0.7 damage, so we'll just say 1 for the sake of easier numbers. So from this distance, I'm just going to launch a W, and you can see how long it takes. Alright, so from that distance, Ranger's damage is essentially equal to Lunar Blaze's damage that you get as a bonus. Now with Lunar Blaze, you get an additional mana cost and range. Obviously, your range is not from here with a 40% increase, but this is the distance at which they're equal. So anything past this, Ranger ends up doing more damage. And in general, Ranger does provide you with more damage output, but you're sacking some consistency, and I'll go over that in a second. So hitting Chaos here, a training dummy, from this distance is the same. If there is a hero here, if Chaos was right here, Ranger will now provide a better damage increase than Lunar Blaze can provide. And Arthas, who's right about here, provides even more damage. So that's one thing to keep in mind with Ranger, is that's about the distance from here to here equals the same damage for Lunar Blaze. Anything past this middle point, either over here, if it's a 3-lane map from here to here, all of that, it will end up being more damage. So Ranger does provide the higher damage output, but it is a bit of an inconsistency in damage. So why I'm saying it's a bit of inconsistency in damage is your typical team fight is about a full screen length away. So at max, you're usually going to be sniping from right here to right here, alright? And that is not a better damage increase than Lunar Blaze is going to give you. It's still a good damage increase, but it's not as much as Lunar Blaze will give you. So from here to here, your damage is a little less, and that's about a standard snipe in most games. So you might, in a 3-lane map, be shooting from one edge of the map to the other edge of the map and trying to be hitting snipes that way. But standardly in team fights, you're going to want to do as much damage output as you can to help out your team, which means you're typically anywhere from this range to right back where I showed you, maybe max around here. And that's kind of the range that you're going to be using your owl at. So that's the consistency range, is from back here to here, where you're going to be throwing an owl out just to do more damage, to keep enemy heroes tracked, and things of that nature. So in that sense, Lunar Flare is going to give you a better damage output in those scenarios. Now, if you are throwing cross-map snipes and you're hitting them, that's the big thing. Just because it does more damage doesn't mean you're going to hit something cross-map. So if you are consistently hitting 3-laners across map with Ranger, then Ranger's probably going to be a better pick. But like I said, in most teamfight scenarios, you're going to be pretty close. So in that regard, I don't find Ranger to be as useful as a level 1 talent because of the inconsistency of increased damage, where Lunar Blaze is a flat rate. You're always going to get that damage as long as you hit somebody within the circle. For the stun, you're going to get the increased damage from Lunar Blaze, and so that's why I end up picking Lunar Blaze more than Ranger. And Lunar Blaze also provides you with more utility. No longer having a mana cost on your E allows you to stay in fights longer because you don't run out of mana, and the extra range is pretty significant. But with that said, all 3 of these quests are definitely okay to pick. If you have a differing opinion, remember, these are builds that have worked for me through my testing, and they might not work for you. It's okay if we have different builds. These are just good insights, I think, for players who want to get started on the heroes and want to have a reliable build that has been tested pretty thoroughly. So Ranger definitely good if you just feel like sniping people. It's definitely, in my opinion, it's the funnest talent out of all of them because now you can cross map people, right, and just obliterate them. Lunar Blaze, if you're trying to win games, I feel just provides the most value out of all of the talents. So we're going to be going Lunar Blaze most of the time, and I'm going to complete the quest here so you can kind of see the range. So right now we can stun Chaos, but it's a little bit, you know, just right outside the range. We're just hitting him with the about halfway out of the circle. So hit complete quest. Now I have plenty of space. So before we were right here. That's where we were. So this is 40%, right about there. Which is pretty significant. You know, that could be a wall, that could be a whole corner, snipe people across the way. And because some people like to know, if you manage to hit 1,000 heroes, which is the maximum amount of heroes you can hit to get Lunar Blaze increased damage, you do 13,948 damage. So if you manage to hit 1,000 heroes in a match, you will be doing just under 14,000 damage to a single target, which means you will insta-kill any hero in the game, essentially. Though that's probably not going to happen. Most of my games I've been ending around, I'd say 30 to 35 stuns. On a game where I'm not stunning, that's a long game. If I'm not stunning as much, I end up sitting around 25 to 28. My highest is somewhere in the 40s, but that was a really long game, so you gotta take that into consideration as far as how much damage you can get out of that. So once again, just to kind of backtrack and review real quick, Ranger's Mark, it's okay. I didn't really find a lot of impact with it, so I don't really recommend going it, but you can definitely do it if you feel that you do like Ranger and Lunar Blaze are both really good level 1 quest talents to get. I prefer Lunar Blaze because of the utility and the reliable damage. Ranger gives you more damage potential, but it's not as consistent for damage output as Lunar Blaze is. So take that for what you will. Ranger, however, I believe is better if you can combo it with a level 13 talent. We'll talk about that when we get to level 4, much like level 1, has 3 great options to choose from. And I'm going to be going over what I think is the best, and then kind of going down the list, but each one gives you a different situation in which you would pick. So we're going to start with Celestial Attunement, which is Light of a Loon, that's your heal, removes a stun from its target. When a stun is removed this way, Light of a Loon may be used for free within 3 seconds. This free cast cannot benefit from Celestial Attunement. Basically, you can't infinitely gain healing, free healing abilities. This by far is the best level 4 talent you can grab, but only useful if you're against a stun heavy lineup. So we're talking Muradin Dahaka, ETC, plus another hero. I tend to pick up Celestial Attunement when there's 2 heroes on the enemy team that have pretty decent lockdown. That way you have multiple targets that you can remove stuns from, and you're not just kind of sitting there keeping your heal in order to, you know, save an ally from a stun just to get the value. So if they're not that stun heavy, then Celestial Attunement's not really the best pick for you. If they are very stun heavy and they're a heavy lockdown comp, then Celestial Attunement's great. So that's something to consider when picking this talent up. Now, my second go-to pick, if they don't have a lot of stuns, is Kaldurai Resistance. And I hope I said Kaldurai right. And so that is Light of a Loon, grants the target 15 spell armor for 6 seconds. This effect stacks up to 4 times. So with resets on Light of a Loon, your attacks per second is 1.25. So with that taken into effect, and you know, travel time of your auto attack and things of that nature, you're basically looking at 4 auto attacks to reset Light of a Loon. So 4 autos will get you another heal, or you wait the 12 seconds. Since it takes 4 auto attacks to reset Light of a Loon, you can be consistently resetting Kaldurai Resistance with more spell armor. 6 seconds is plenty of time to get 4 auto attacks off, and you have about a second to spare to drop another heal onto your target ally who already has it to increase that target's spell armor. I typically go Kaldurai Resistance most of the time because I haven't really ran into a lot of stun heavy comps, so Celestial Attunement hasn't been that beneficial to me. And blocking any kind of spell damage is always nice, and being able to stack up to 60 spell armor is great for one particular hero. Now, if you are against a comp that doesn't have a lot of stuns and they are physical damage based or auto attack based, Kaldurai Resistance doesn't help you there. If they're Vala, Raynor, and Zul'jin, like, you're really not going to get a lot of value off of Calderai resistance if Vol is going auto attack build. I know there's a lot of scenarios, but I'm just talking about pure auto attack damage things. Calderai resistance isn't really going to help you that much. Then you go Moonlit Arrows because it's your last option. So basic attacks decrease the cooldown of Light of a Loon by an additional 0.75 seconds. You attack every 1.25 seconds with all this taken into consideration. It's basically 3 auto attacks to reset your heal versus 4 auto attacks. So kind of think of it as Way of the Blade with Samuro. If you do go Way of the Blade on Samuro, or if you even play Samuro at all, your baseline is 4 auto attacks for your Q to reset, for your heal, and with Moonlit Arrows it's 3 auto attacks. So your heal is up more often, but then you do lose spell armor, which could potentially save a teammate. It could be more valuable than your heal, or you're losing the potential to have a miniature version of cleanse off of a heal. So that's the order that I end up going in my mind when looking at a team comp, and you can do that right at the start of a match. You can go, okay, they don't have a lot of stuns, so I'm not going to pick Celestial Attunement, but they do have a lot of spell damage, and they're very spell damage heavy, so Calderai resistance will definitely be helpful. Or they don't have any of these things, so I'm just going to get Moonlit Arrows for more heals. Or they're really stun heavy, so I'm going to get Celestial Attunement. That's just going to depend on your game, what you're up against, and what you think the best option is at the time. I typically end up going Calderai resistance just for the simple fact that I like to negate any kind of spell damage I can. So that's my go-to choice, but like I said, each one has its own scenario in which it's good, so just pick accordingly. So level 7 is kind of interesting. Usually you're just going to be going True Shot Aura. I'm just going to flat out say that's usually the standard, and it's usually the best one to go. It helps with taking down structures a little easier because you're going to have a lot more auto attacking happening and stuff of that nature. Huntress Fury in theory would be great if it actually procced your level 1 Ranger's Mark tree. So basic attacks reducing by 1 second. I can confirm, I've tried it a lot and I cannot get it to proc. I don't think it's supposed to. So with Huntress Fury, Tyrande's basic attacks against targets with Hunter's Mark splashed to nearby heroes and mercenaries. The splashed auto attacks do not continually lower the cooldown Ranger's Mark. So if you hit 4 enemies, it does not go down by 4 seconds. If that was the case, Hunter's Fury would be great, but that's not what it does. I've tried it a lot, and I have never seen it go down more than 1 second per auto attack, so Hunter's Fury, just kind of ignore that one. Now, Darnassian Archery is pretty cool, because it actually is a very assassin talent that you can grab. So if you want to play Tyrande kind of like this more assassin style build, and you want to be this auto attacker who ramps up pretty quickly, Darnassian Archery is really good for that because it does provide more damage than True Shot Aura. It takes, I believe it's 4 auto attacks, 3 to 4 auto attacks in order to make Darnassian Archery do more damage than True Shot Aura can provide for you. Now with that said, Darnassian Archery is basic attacks against enemy heroes, grant a stacking 5% increased attack bonus damage for 4 seconds. This bonus is lost when basic attacking non-heroes. That's the big part of this. So it's great if all you're doing is team fighting people, and that's like your main deal of what you're doing, but you also have to think that you're going to be healing occasionally. So if there's a minion wave, typically you would attack a minion wave, kind of if you're not in range or it's not safe for you to engage the enemy team, to kind of get your Q reset so you can heal people. Darnassian Archery kind of limits that a little more, where you're always going to want to be in range of auto attacking the enemy. It's fun. It's a great fun ability to grab. I don't think it really does much for your team because it doesn't provide anything for your team. It just makes you more of an assassin. So with that said, True Shot Aura is definitely better in this kind of supporting kind of role that Tyrande plays. But just be aware that Darnassian Archery does give you a ton of damage. It is a lot of fun. You do just like burn through people. It's really cool. But True Shot Aura ends up being better, especially if you have any sort of auto attacking heroes on your team. True Shot Aura will always be a better option, because then now your damage output is spread amongst multiple heroes with the bonus that True Shot Aura gives you, versus Darnassian Archery, which only provides it for yourself. So technically, Darnassian Archery is better in damage because 1, it goes infinite, and 2, it helps your auto attacks do more damage. But if you have any other heroes that auto attack for their main source of damage, True Shot Aura is just going to provide you so much more. So with that said, True Shot Aura always the talent to grab. So level 10, you have 2 ulti choices. I'm just going to go ahead and say that Starfall is going to be your go-to. It's really strong. Mana cost is 75, cooldown 80 seconds, deal X damage per second, and slow enemies by 20% last 6 seconds. So 1, it's an area denial, which is super valuable in this game, and 2, it slows enemies, and since movement speed across the board is the same for heroes, give or take the few niche situations like Lunara or Eric from Lost Vikings, etc. Slowing enemies is just infinitely great, and now they can't escape. They have no backup plan. They have to full engage on you if you catch them all inside, or you can just area deny the team completely. So Starfall is by far your go-to. Now Shadowstalk is cool. 50 mana cost, 30-second cooldown. You gain stealth and you gain 30% movement speed. When Shadowstalk stealth is broken, gain 50% attack speed and retain its movement speed bonus for 5 seconds. It's really cool, and it really combos well with Darnassian Archery. So if you go Darnassian Archery and you go Shadowstalk, you're now looking to be more and more of a assassin. That's honestly, it's a viable option. With that said, though, if you're picking Tyrande to be an assassin instead of picking a regular assassin to fill that role, you're probably just having some fun with your team or with your friends or something. I don't really recommend doing that if you're trying to like win a ranked match. I mean, if you really feel like you are the only thing that can help your team carry and you pick Tyrande, then I guess going that is a viable choice. But for your general playstyle, wanting to help out your team, Starfall, just go with it. Trust me, it's good. The AoE is also pretty large, so you can block off large areas. Alright, at level 13, we have 3 different options here for your talents. I basically bounce between 2 of them. I almost never get Quickening Blessing. Light of Balloon increases the target's movement speed by 25% for 3 seconds. It is good, and situationally is great, but I don't grab it because I grab Harsh Moonlight usually, which is Sentinel slows the target by 30% and reduces their damage dealt by 30% for 4 seconds. So here's why I don't usually grab Quickening Blessing. The movement speed's great, and it's 25%, alright? You have a 30% slow here, which means that you're gaining more value off of Harsh Moonlight, typically speaking. If you're chasing somebody down and you hit somebody with Harsh Moonlight, your heroes can catch up to them. If you give your hero movement speed, they can catch up to them. There's a 5% difference, no matter what way you look at it. The other thing, though, to consider is that Harsh Moonlight is on Sentinel's cooldown of 18 seconds versus the movement speed is on your 12-second cooldown, which defaults your heal will be up more often, so you can end up giving more people more movement speed. But with your auto attacks resetting this even faster, you can get a lot more movement speed perks off. So that's something to consider, but the damage dealt reduction is also a huge portion of why I think Harsh Moonlight is a better option. So with this build that you're looking at so far, grabbing Lunar Blaze at level 1 and kind of doing a little bit more of a standard thing, level 4, 7, 10, I 9 out of 10 times grab Harsh Moonlight. I think it's the better option. But if you are going Ranger, then I would suggest, everything's the same but you grab Ranger at level 1, I would suggest grabbing Empower, which is reduce Sentinel's cooldown by 4 seconds each time it hits a hero. So at this point, you're at least piercing 3 targets. Typically speaking, you've hit at least 24. This is where I said earlier where Ranger can do a lot more damage than Lunar Blaze, specifically with a level 13 talent. So with Empower, if on a consistent basis, now I stress that word, consistent basis, if you can consistently hit 2 heroes post 13 with Sentinel, Sentinel will always have a higher damage output than Lunar Flare will. Always, because you're going to have this on or off cooldown always sooner than you will Lunar Flare. And I said consistent, so if you only are hitting 1 hero with your Sentinel, then you're only going to drop to a 14-second cooldown. Lunar Flare's 12 seconds. Lunar Flare will always have a higher damage output, which is another reason why I like to grab Lunar Blaze. Really relying on hitting 2 heroes every single time for your Empower to proc is kind of unreliable, so that's another reason I feel that Lunar Blaze is good, because you have a guaranteed damage source. But if you just feel like sniping, or you really feel like you can hit multiple heroes post 13 all the time, then going Ranger at level 1 and then Empower is a great sniping / damage output version of Tyrande that can output quite a bit. But for the sake of the build that I end up going the most, which is what I'm doing these guides for, to kind of show you a general good build to go. Harsh Moonlight is always great, and because the repeatable quest of piercing additional targets is baseline on Sentinel, you can hit multiple heroes and slow multiple heroes and reduce your damage dealt. So it kind of gives your owl multiple uses, which is why I like Harsh Moonlight. So level 16, the only one I don't really recommend is Mark of Mending. Tyrande's basic attacks heal her for 2% of her maximum health. Basic attacks against targets with Hunter's Mark heal the attackers for 3% of their max health. Now, this is good situationally. If you're a really heavy auto-attacking lineup, this is a decent ability to grab. But I kind of feel that there's better options at level 16. So my go-to is Elun's Chosen. Now, I'm going to be playing clip over here on the right-hand side, and that's going to be showing me healing a Genji with Elun's Chosen and how fast I heal Genji with Elun's Chosen with just auto-attacking. It is a crazy, crazy burst heal, and that's what Tyrande really lacks, because with auto-attacks you have a lot more of a sustain heal. It does burst in the sense of it's a high number, but it's more of a sustain heal because you have it every so often, you know, every few seconds if you're auto-attacking somebody. If you're finding you're against a comp that can burst a hero down on your team most of the time, then Elun's Chosen is going to be your go-to, because you can heal somebody basically through any kind of burst damage that they can do, as long as you're not getting targeted and you're able to auto-attack. Now keep in mind, the heal that you get from Elun's Chosen also is in addition to your Q. So every 4 auto-attacks you're resetting Light of Elun, and Elun's Chosen, you're getting heals from the auto-attack. So within the 5-second period, if you're hitting everything perfectly, you'll get 2 heals off and every single auto-attack off with Elun's Chosen. So it's Q, Elun's Chosen auto-attacks, and at the end of Elun's Chosen auto-attacks, you'll hit another Q, and that's the healing that you can do. So it's kind of like having a supercharged Morales for 5 seconds, and then it goes on cooldown for 40. So I should read you what it says too. Elun's Chosen is cooldown 40 seconds. Activate to make Tyrande's basic attacks heal the target ally for 200% of the damage dealt. Lasts for 5 seconds. It's really significant, as you saw in that clip. It heals really, really quickly, and that's why I like to go it. Now it is a 40-second cooldown, so you have to kind of pick and choose. It's almost like having cleanse. You kind of pick and choose when you pop your super Morales ability, but I do find that it is very useful in most of the games I pick, or that I pick Tyrande in, so that's why it's my go-to. If you don't feel like you want Elun's Chosen, you don't feel like you're comfortable with that pick, or if they just don't have a lot of burst damage, if they're very sustain heavy, Overflowing Light is by far better. So while Tyrande is above 60% health, Light of Elun's healing is increased by 30%. It's a pretty large crit. I think at level 20 it ends up being just around 800 heal, and you're gonna have that every 4 auto attacks, so that's a pretty huge heal. And most of the time 60% is pretty easy to keep Tyrande above, as long as you're not like out of position or overcommitted in any kind of scenario. So for level 16, Overflowing Light versus sustain comps, that's your go-to. Versus burst comps, Elun's Chosen is much better, in my opinion. So, but for the sake of picking a talent right now, I'm going to pick Elun's Chosen, but just keep in mind, one's for sustain, one's for burst. Alright, so at level 20, the 2 I don't really recommend going are Eyes of the Huntress, and that is after casting Shadowstock, reveal all enemy heroes for 2 seconds. That's good, but generally speaking, if you have decent map awareness, you'll know where the enemy heroes are. You'll have at least a general guess of where they are, so this isn't that useful of a talent. The second one that I don't really recommend going is Shooting Star. Increase basic attack range by 1.1, which is nice, and every 10th basic attack against heroes cast a free lunar flare at a random hero near Tyrande's position. I went this a few games, and the basic attack range was great, but the lunar flare was not a very impactful bonus, so you're basically taking this to increase your basic attack range, and that's just kind of okay to me. My favorite pick at 20 is Celestial Wrath, which is Starfall, applies Hunter's Mark to enemy heroes hit. So you hit your R, you click, and everyone that's getting hit in here, or even the initial hit, all have their armor taken down by 25, which is pretty big. This is very helpful, and it resets the duration every time an enemy is hit by it. So if somebody gets hit by your initial starfall and the 4 seconds is taken down and they go to 1 second and they walk back into it, it's back at 4 seconds, which makes Celestial Wrath very, very strong. It's an incredible zoning tool then, and it's an incredible initiation tool with that. It combos best with AoE on your team, but in general it's just very, very strong. The other one I go on occasion for my flex pick is Ice Blade Arrows. Increase attack speed by 25%. Basic attacks against enemy heroes reduce their damage dealt by 8% for 2 seconds. This effect stacks up to 5 times. So this does stack, by the way, with Harsh Moonlight. I've tested it a few times. It definitely stacks. So Ice Blade Arrows can do up to 40%, and then you get an additional 30% on top of that. I've used it on Arthas. I hardly take any damage, so it's good for that. I think it's almost better for the attack speed personally, because with Harsh Moonlight that kind of gives you that damage reduction that's good, and you can use it at a safe range. The basic attack speed gets your heal up more often and lets you output a little more damage, which is always nice, and gives you a better heal for Eluna's Chosen if you decided to go that. But your 9 out of 10 pick, Celestial Wrath, almost every time, for sure at level 20. So guys, just quickly reviewing it as we always do here. Level 1 we go Lunar Blaze. Ranger is also a good pick, but Lunar Blaze gives you a little more consistent damage output, and that's why I pick it, although Ranger does provide more damage. If you're sniping targets from far distances a lot more, Ranger ends up being better. Lunar Blaze, definitely the one to go to if you want consistency and reliable damage. Kaldur'ai Resistance is my standard to go, but as mentioned earlier, all 3 of these are great options if they have a lot of stuns. Celestial Attunement, if they don't have a lot of stuns, then go down to Kaldur'ai Resistance. The Spell Armor, if they just don't do spell damage, then go to Moonlit Arrows, because that'll just get your heal up more often, and that will help you against a sustained comp, which typically is what an auto-attacking comp is based off. So level 7, we go True Shot Aura for the increased attack damage for all nearby heroes, for everyone's auto-attack that is on your team. And if we just want to have a good time, we're just messing around, Darnastian Archery is great to just become an assassin version of Tyrande. But if you're really serious and you're really trying to win games, usually True Shot Aura is your go-to. Also, if you have auto-attack heroes on your team, True Shot Aura just ends up providing more output damage overall than Darnastian Archery can give you individually. At 10, your 9 out of 10 pick is Starfall. If you want to go a little bit more assassin-y and just have a good time, Shadow Stock is great for that. But as far as just generally a better ulti choice to pick for your team, Starfall is the one to go for. Level 13, we go Harsh Moonlight, as for many reasons that we've already explained. The slow by 30% is great, reducing their damage dealt by 30% is great, and it combos super well into your repeatable quest that is baseline, allowing you to pierce multiple heroes, allowing you to slow multiple heroes, and reducing multiple heroes damage dealt, which makes Harsh Moonlight definitely my go-to. And if you did go Ranger at level 1, I do say you have to 100% go Empower to reduce Sentinel's cooldown by 4 seconds, and you need to be hitting at least 2 heroes with every Sentinel cast in order to provide value for your Sentinel doing more damage than Lunar Flare. Level 16, if you're against a burst comp or just want to have massively big heals on somebody, Eluna's Chosen is by far the better talent to go out of all of them. Mainly used against burst comps, like I said, but it is definitely very, very helpful in almost all scenarios, and that's why it's my choice. But if they are very sustain heavy and you aren't going to get a lot of value out of Eluna's Chosen, then Overflowing Light is your sustain go-to, and that will just make your heals do more. The combo is really great with all your other talents, and it's just an overall great choice against the sustain comp. So once again, Eluna's Chosen for burst, Overflowing Light for sustain. Level 20, Celestial Wrath. It applies Hunter's Mark to all heroes hit. That's crazy good. Armor reductions for everybody. You're like Oprah handing out these armor reductions. You know, everyone gets one. It's great. Your secondary pick for your flex, Ice Blade Arrows, increasing your attack speed, and your basic attacks reduce damage dealt by 8% for 2 seconds, and it goes up to 40% for stacking 5 times. But your general scenario, Celestial Wrath is your go-to. I hope you all enjoyed this guide, and I hope it was super helpful for you guys. If it was, please be sure to leave a comment. Let me know what you guys thought about the guide. If there are heroes you'd like to see me cover, be sure to leave that in the comments below as well. You can follow me on Twitter at Skizzors, that's Skizzors, the Strazik's name right here, it's just Skizzors backwards, so you're aware. And I also have a Twitch channel that I do stream Heroes of the Storm and various other games on, and that is twitch.tv/Skizzors, Skizzors. That will be in the description below. And be sure to follow Storm Legacy, our great partner, who you may be watching this guide on the channel for Storm Legacy, which is awesome. You guys are the best. If you haven't, though, checked out Storm Legacy, go to stormlegacy.com to check out them. They're on Twitter at Storm Legacy Team, and they're on Twitch, twitch.tv/Storm Legacy. Great people over there, 100% deserve support, and I highly recommend going and checking out all their other stuff. So that's going to be doing it for me, guys. This has been Skizzors, your favorite theory crafter for all things Heroes of the Storm. If you have any questions, comments, and concerns, you can comment in the YouTube video, or you can send me a personal tweet at Skizzors, once again. And yeah, guys, I hope you really enjoyed the video, and we will be seeing you all next time.
Death to all who threaten the wilds.